What's going on, everyone? Happy Monday to everyone. Hopefully, everyone is doing well, staying safe, healthy. If you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. If you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long-term issues. It is time now for the Monday edition, the Pandemic Update, for Monday, January 29th, 2024. First off, if you're new to my channel, this is where we talk about viruses. I mean, COVID, it's a big virus. It's still out there. It's still mutating. There's constantly new variants. Matter of fact, I got one on my radar now that I'm starting to watch over in Japan. I'm going to be letting you know about that in the coming days. I don't know if it's going to become something, but it's become something in Japan right now, so it's going to become a story. If you want to stay informed of what's going on with COVID and its latest variants and any other virus that could be a threat to you, subscribe to my channel down below. It's easy to do. You'll be informed. You'll stay safe, and maybe it'll help you stay healthy. And unfortunately, if long COVID has already gotten you, well, at least maybe I can share you some news with some maybe treatments that we hope will eventually come out to help people with long COVID. All right, we're late with today's update. There's a reason for it. And if you follow me on Twitter, you may have saw about between 2 and 2:30 we released the climate update. Well, we had to take our cat to the vet today. I had to call the vet this morning, called him early afternoon, and they said, oh, well, we may be able to fit him in today. Well, it turned out what happened was, long story short, they called back and said, can you get him here at 2:45? And I said, well, yeah, I guess we can get him here at 2:45. So it was a rush to get him there. I was going to do the pandemic update, but then they called back and said, oh, no, you need to get him here now. What happens is he has an infection. We don't know what it was. He had hot spots on him. And turns out when we took him there, he was fine in the waiting room. We took him back to the exam room. You know, if you have a cat, sometimes your cat will get startled or won't be cooperative in the exam room. And, well, our cat was that case today. And they looked at him. They saw where the infection was. And they says, very interesting. Do you know if he was bitten by fleas or anything? And I said, well, no. But turns out back last year, in spring of last year, we let him outside. My parents let him outside. He was a rescue cat, believe it or not. He was found outside. PetSmart, when we got him from PetSmart, he was found from outside. So, I mean, we've been letting him out forever. It's not the best thing to do, but he had ticks on him last year. And they said because he had ticks on him, which we pull off him, that can sometimes lead to an irritation or an infection that can come back down the line, which I honestly did not know that on cats that could reoccur down the line, but it did. So that they're believing that's what the cause was. Also, we got him an arthritis shot today. He's 18 years old. We've had him since 2006. So they gave him a treatment. They showed us how to do the treatment. Hopefully we'll be able to do it. You have to inject it through the mouth. So that's why we're so late with today's update. It's going to be a modified update today. We're going to skip over some of the things that I had lined up here because I didn't have enough time to review everything. But let's get through some of the important numbers. First off, New Zealand. Haven't talked about New Zealand in a while. 5,757 new cases and 20 new deaths have been added. So that's the update from New Zealand. And then we come to this. I did read this last night, and you can read about it too. I tweeted it out on my Twitter account. Unexpected rise in type 1 diabetes. Lancet study flags COVID-19 pandemic impact on children and women. And yes, we have seen in the past, even mild cases can cause diabetes because it can impact the body. But what they talk about in here is there's actually a little tidbit in here that says severe cases have led to diabetes. And unfortunately, you don't want it. I've had family members that have had it. I actually had an aunt that died, unfortunately, of diabetes when I was a kid. It was very sad. And yes, she had it really bad. All right. If anyone watches football, if anyone's a regular watching CBS, which is the AFC games, and Fox, which is the NFC games, you know on Fox that have been pretty much the same pregame, aftergame, halftime hosts for a long time, and some of them have been there for a lot of years. Seems like all my life they have been there. Well, one of those people would be Terry Bradshaw. You may have noticed Terry Bradshaw was not there yesterday. And it says here, reason for Bradshaw's absence from Fox's NFL pregame show revealed. Terry Bradshaw has been there for quite a long time. And you know that pre-COVID, even if it was just the sniffles or something, It's the NFC Championship game. He's going to be there. Well, we're into COVID times now. And this is what they said. Bradshaw, 75, was not present during Fox's pregame coverage. He's under the weather, according to a report. Quote, under the weather. It could be that in his contract, he's not allowed to disclose if he has COVID. Don't know. There's a lot of people out there that if they test positive, famous people, they test positive, it can't be disclosed, but several months down the line, we can find out. Don't know. We also do know Terry Bradshaw has been dealing with health issues just a couple years ago, so maybe that played a role. Someone also told me that they were watching him a couple weeks ago and he was visibly sick, so who knows? But Terry Bradshaw was not present yesterday. Could it have been COVID? Leave what you think down below. Leave a comment down below. Do you think he had COVID? Alright, moving on to this now. COVID-19 epidemic in Japan has been heating up for 9 consecutive weeks as new mutant strain spreads. That would be the JN.1 variant. Now, I am hearing rumblings, and I actually saw something on Twitter. I don't want to get into too great details, but there may possibly be yet another variant there as well that is rising, and it's something we have to watch. Japan is late to the party, if you ask me. Everywhere else, or most other places, have had their JN.1 wave, but here comes Japan coming up at the end. We'll have to see if that actually leads to anything else. Alright, we have to take a look at this week's BNO numbers. And the number I want you to remember in this is the death number. So this week, new cases, 248,717 cases in the United States. Average is 331,342. States reporting 50 out of 50. Some of those are estimates. In the hospital, 24,721. In the ICU, 2,448. Both of those numbers are down significantly. New deaths, 2,575. And let's add that to my calculator here. 2,575. And the average is 312. Coming down here, gathering COVID data. We'll skip that. The breakdown for this week's case numbers. Reports, 22 states. Estimates, 28 states. COVID cases remain elevated, but new cases and hospitalizations have dropped 2 weeks in a row. I want to skip down something here. This is the 4th week in a row with more than 2,000 new COVID deaths, or 9,218 deaths combined in the last month. That, my friends, is a lot of deaths. If the pandemic was truly actually over, we would not be having that many COVID deaths in 1 month. That's totally ridiculous. Oh, and it's the 20th week in a row with 1,000 new deaths, or 33,000 during the same period. It's just too many deaths. But it doesn't stop there. There were more deaths. U.S. influenza update. Now, flu's been a thing for decades and decades, but flu's pretty bad this year. New cases, 2,000 estimated. Average is, 2 million estimated, not 2,000. Average is 2,725,000. Hospital admissions, 30,000. New deaths, 2,000 new deaths. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, but how many flu deaths are there? Yeah, there were 2,000 flu deaths, but hello to the people that say that. Remember that number from COVID? Let's add 2,000 to that number. Let's add 2,000. You get 4,575. Yeah, those flu deaths are on top of COVID. Or let's make it the other way around. COVID was around before flu. Now all of a sudden you still have the COVID deaths, right? You still have the flu deaths, right? Now we're adding on all these COVID deaths on top. So the whole point that people make, and I get said to it all the time, well, how many people died of flu? Okay, yeah, 2,000 people did die of flu. But add on another 2,575. That totals 4,575 virus deaths. And that's just from those 2 viruses. There's a lot of other viruses out there. My point I'm trying to make is, prior to COVID, we weren't losing an additional 2,575 people in 1 week. Or in this case, we weren't losing over 9,000 people in just 1 month because of a COVID virus that did not exist prior to 2020. My friends, my point, COVID is still a pandemic. Alright, reminder, I got another channel here, Climate Data Report. We just talked about that today. Speaking of two things going on at once, on that other channel today, we talked about there being the potential for two storms at once. There's a big storm that's going to hit the west coast, then it's going to transfer its energy down south and generate something in the Gulf and the southeast. And at the same time that's happening next week, there's going to be another big storm hitting the west coast. If you want to learn more about that mess, do so on my other channel, Climate Data Report. There will be a link card down below for you to check that out. All right, let's continue on here. Let's do Philadelphia's numbers today. We'll do Walgreens tomorrow. How does that sound? Okay, Philadelphia had 712 EMS incidents on Sunday, and let's take a live look at the suburbs, because for this time of night, wow, yeah, there's quite a few calls right now, and I'm seeing that sometimes, as we say, it's not the volume of calls, it's the type of calls. A little bit of both right now. I'm seeing stroke, cardiac emergency, cardiac arrest. Not one, not two, but three respiratory emergencies. I'm seeing an overdose, vomiting, another overdose. Yeah, it's not a good set of calls right now. And let's do a look at Chester County, Pennsylvania. Stroke, sick person, choking, hemorrhaging, heart problems, syncope, syncopal episode, unresponsive person, on and on it goes. Respiratory difficulty. A little busy for this time of night. That's busy. Usually the calls start to calm down. Sometimes you can get a busy rush later in the evening. All right, we have to take a look at what's going on in New Jersey. Unfortunately, not a lot of hospitals reported today. Only 57 out of 70. That's missing 13. And it was still 889 hospitalizations, 34 on a ventilator. In the ICU, it's 108. We know all those numbers would be higher, but despite that, there were still 140 discharges. New York State today, 2,473 people tested positive on the most recent update. This data is as of the end of last week. And the number of people in the hospital is 2,287. And I do believe this could be the week New York State goes below 2,000 hospitalizations or comes very close to doing so. Alrighty, I know this was a bit of a shortened update today. Like I said, we will go through the Walgreens numbers tomorrow. I haven't actually had time to look at them yet. Did they even come in today? I'm pretty sure they probably did. But we'll look over that tomorrow and anything else I find for you tomorrow. If you enjoyed this shortened version of the pandemic update, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel down below. If you know anyone who needs to see this, by all means share this with them. Social media, Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, wherever it is. Maybe it's someone you're working with and you want to tell them about the channel. By all means, do that. Because we need more people to be informed with what's actually going on. Because so many people are walking around thinking, well, the news hasn't said anything, so it must not be bad. No, no, no. Just because the news is quiet doesn't mean COVID has ended. Remember again, just between COVID and influenza in 1 week, 4,575 deaths. That's a lot of deaths. It's far too many deaths. Many of them being preventable deaths. I will see you all again next time. Until I see you again next time, stay safe, everyone. Have a fantastic Monday evening. Thanks for watching.